The Eastern Conference apocalypse. Knicks smash the Cavs to take a devastating 2-0 lead as billion-dollar stars collapse in the Matrix. Lock the doors, turn the volume all the way up to absolute maximum, and brace yourselves because the Eastern Conference Finals have reached a state of pure, unadulterated basketball psychological warfare. Welcome back to Cleveland Sports HQ, your absolute destination for all of the weekend playoff action and, of course, the high-stakes thriller that is NBA postseason hoops. The series is locked into a state of total chaos as the battlefield officially heads to Rocket Arena in Cleveland, Ohio for Game 3 tonight, May 24, 2026. But the big question on everyone's mind is simple. Are the Cleveland Cavaliers already dead in the water, or is there a major franchise-altering comeback brewing in the locker room? Let's line up a friend and ask the hard questions. We need to talk to Quinn and see what he thinks from a structural standpoint. The New York Knicks are currently riding the wave of one of the longest, most dominant playoff streaks in their entire franchise history. In Game 2, they didn't just win. They secured a brutal, systematic 109-93 blowout victory over the Cavs to protect home court at Madison Square Garden and take an authoritative 2-0 series lead. But if you look closely at the datasheets and microscopic tactical trends, the highest point differential that completely revolutionized this New York Knicks offense didn't just magically manifest from their high-profile starting stars. I mean, after the absolute chaos and analytical whiplash of Game 1, heading into Game 2 felt as high-stakes, intense, and psychologically grueling as a professional poker game played behind heavily closed doors. The entire structural key to this series completely changed because the Cavs' elite defense, anchored by their massive, Twin Tower front line of big men Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley, totally bottled up and suffocated the Knicks' typical half-court sets for the first 3 quarters of that opening game. Why did this happen? Because Cleveland head coach Kenny Atkinson was ruthlessly exploiting a specific, highly disrespectful defensive blueprint. The Cavs were sagging completely off of Josh Hart on the perimeter, treating his three-point shot with total impunity, and using their massive size to aggressively crowd the paint, build a human wall, and choke out every single available driving lane for Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. They basically dared Hart to shoot from deep, ignoring him completely, which effectively destroyed New York's offensive spacing, clogged up the geometric flow of the floor, and threw their entire offensive rhythm into complete disarray. But that paralyzing frustration is exactly where the historic, franchise-altering turnaround originally came from. Recognizing the code red structural emergency, the Knicks coaching staff hit the tactical panic button. They made the bold, high-risk decision to bench Josh Hart, adjusting their philosophy entirely by inserting the sharpshooting veteran Landry Shamet onto the floor alongside elite, long-wing two-way weapons Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. The monumental impact of that singular adjustment cannot be overstated. The very moment the Knicks surrounded their star point guard Jalen Brunson with 5 lethal perimeter shooters, the entire floor opened up like a violent, unstoppable floodgate. The Cavaliers' defense was suddenly pulled out of its comfort zone. They could no longer afford to sit their premier rim protectors deep inside the paint to erase shots. This schematic shift completely broke the Cavs' defensive coverage and allowed the Knicks to execute one of the wildest, most historically efficient, and absolutely unhinged 44-11 offensive avalanches across the final minutes of the fourth quarter and overtime of Game 1. That newfound schematic momentum carried over perfectly into Game 2. While the public and the media were panicking about the sudden lineup changes, Josh Hart responded to his benching with a level of extreme professional humility and elite on-court production that left the Cavaliers' defense completely paralyzed and scratching their heads. Hart checked into Game 2 off the bench and instantly turned into a man completely possessed by a competitive fury. He exploded for a spectacular, team-high 26 points in 33 heavy minutes on the floor, putting together a highly efficient 10 of 21 shooting display from the field, single-handedly carrying the heavy scoring load and keeping the offense afloat during dry spells. Meanwhile, Jalen Brunson adjusted seamlessly to the defense, playing the role of an elite, maestro playmaker by carving up the defense and dishing out a staggering, career-defining 14 assists. Simultaneously, Karl-Anthony Towns anchored the interior like a true heavyweight, racking up a monster double-double with 18 hard-fought points and pulling down 13 crucial rebounds to secure possession after possession. When you have your high-volume stars and your gritty role players clicking in perfect synchronization, you can manufacture any easy basket you want against any coverage. The Knicks proved to the entire basketball world that they are a deep, dynamic, and terrifying championship juggernaut that can win through sheer versatility, roster depth, and coaching adjustments. On the absolute flip side of this equation, the Cleveland Cavaliers are heading back to their home floor facing a code red existential crisis, even as the odds makers list them as a tight, narrow 55% statistical betting favorite to survive Game 3. The reality of the situation is that Cleveland's postseason survival is officially on life support, and their backcourt dynamic is looking like a total, unmitigated train wreck. Donovan Speeder Mitchell did absolutely everything he humanly and physically could do to carry the load in Game 2, putting up a resilient 26 points. However, because the offense lacked any real fluidity, he was forced into a massive, exhausting volume load, shooting a tough 8 of 18 from the field while receiving absolutely zero help from his primary star teammate. James Harden had an absolute catastrophic defensive and offensive meltdown on the floor, finishing the night with more soul-crushing turnovers than actual made field goals. Harden shot an abysmal, flat-footed 6 of 15 from the floor, continuously coughing up the basketball in live play situations, stalling out possessions with excessive dribbling, and acting as a massive defensive liability on the perimeter where the Knicks' hunting offense targeted him ruthlessly on pick-and-roll switches. Head coach Kenny Atkinson is now sitting on a scorching hot seat because his stubborn refusal to make rapid in-game adjustments, alter his rotations, or strictly limit Harden's inefficient isolation possessions is literally draining the oxygen and life out of the Cavaliers' offense. If Cleveland has any realistic hope of surviving tonight, protecting their home floor, and preventing a definitive, series-ending 3-0 blackout scenario, Atkinson must act immediately with zero hesitation. The coaching staff must strip James Harden of his primary playmaking duties and completely reroute the entire offense through Donovan Mitchell as a dynamic, downhill playmaker. They need to force constant, high pick-and-roll actions with the agile Evan Mobley to put the Knicks guards in space, crack New York's disciplined perimeter shell, create open kick-out opportunities for their shooters, and finally inject some life back into a roster that is currently staring directly into the playoff abyss. But while these basketball kingdoms are fighting for survival on the hardwood, the global sports market has just been hit by a parallel, multi-million-dollar economic catastrophe that is leaving fans completely paralyzed with shock. As the sports world counts down to the 2026 FIFA World Cup, a historic transfer market crash has violently wiped out the valuations of soccer's greatest icons. Lionel Messi's untouchable €180 million empire from the 2018 Russia World Cup has suffered a brutal, eye-watering collapse, plummeting straight down to a humble €15 million at age 38. Cristiano Ronaldo's biological-defying €100 million valuation has completely evaporated into thin air, bottoming out at a mere €12 million at age 41. And most staggering of all, Brazil's golden prince, Neymar Jr., has watched his peak €180 million price tag suffer a near-total, catastrophic destruction, crashing down to a shocking €10 million at age 34. Father Time and economic erosion are violently ripping away the old guard across every single sport. The financial matrix has shattered, the basketball lines are drawn, and Game 3 tonight is going to be a war of absolute attrition. If this elite, data-driven playoff matrix breakdown helped you see the game on a completely different level, hit that subscribe button right now because we are breaking down the daily sports landscape with zero filters. Drop your definitive Game 3 score predictions and your reactions to the legendary Messi-Ronaldo value crash in the comments below. I read every single one. Stay locked in, keep grinding, and peace out.